Time for more of the Pigskin preview here on StatelineSportsHub.com, and with me I have a familiar name, especially in the Rockford area. He's the new head football coach at Dakota, Rick Schmitz. And first of all, Coach, congratulations. What a great job to be going to at Dakota.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
When you look at that, you're replacing kind of a legend there at Dakota, which is, it's always kind of fun to do. Jerry Lano, he won 3 state titles from 2005 to 2011. I know they had a couple of lean years the last 2 years, but what a great man that did that there, and now you step into a pretty good situation.
You know, I really do, and Jerry's been quite helpful. We've had, several pretty good talks. And he's really a good guy, and he's helped me out, and he's given me some insight on, what's happened in the past, and some tips for the future, and it's been a real good thing to have him around.
And the good thing I hear is you play the same type of football. Your philosophies are pretty much the same as when you've been at Jefferson and Auburn.
Well, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny you said that because we'll I'll sit and talk with Jerry, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm just kind of an extension of who Jerry Lano was, and his offensive coordinator, Britton Kaufman, kind of says the same thing. He goes, if I wasn't, if I had a blindfold on right now as I'm talking to you, I'm thinking I'm talking to Jerry.
So how good a situation is that to come into a place like Dakota, have a guy that everybody knows pretty well, to be somebody you can kind of bounce stuff off of? And that's got to be a big advantage coming into a new school system.
Well, I think that certainly is, and I think I kind of had the same thing at Auburn with Bill Zavadil. He'd been there for so long, and even though we did a few different things, Bill and I got along really well, and he was a great advisor. For me also, and I was lucky enough to coach under Joe Bloom for many years, and Bill Thumb at Boylan was also one of those guys that I had an opportunity to coach with, and the nice thing about those guys, they're all very helpful, and you took 1 or 2 or 3 things from each one of those guys, and they're all real successful, and I think one of the reasons that they were so successful is and this goes to Jerry too, they just believed in certain things and they didn't go outside that box. Where I think sometimes, me as a young coach, I'd go into Joe Bloom and, I'd have something, a couple of things on a sheet of paper. He'd go, yeah, that looks great. And then he'd crumple up and throw them in the basket. And you just, keep them coming, keep the ideas coming. This is what you really need to do if you're going to, advance as a football coach. So, yeah, kind of crazy how things work out.
It's kind of a different situation. You're coming from an urban setting, and you're going out to a rural setting where high school sports is really the king. I mean, when they have homecoming, they've got all the frills, and it's such a successful program at Dakota. It's kind of a different way of coaching for you, isn't it? I mean, the way, the kids have different situations, been grown up different and everything.
They really do. Actually, I was just talking with some coaches the other day, and we were talking about that very thing, where things are just a little bit different, but the same. Where the Rockford kids had, certain, trials and tribulations, so do the Dakota kids, but it's just a different thing. Different types of, tribulations and hardships and things along that line. And I'm going to tell you, I was lucky enough in Rockford. We had great kids, for the most part, every place I went. So I was lucky that way. But I think, even during the interview, one of the positives is that, some of the places I coached, and we had low numbers. And, 1A football, you're not going to have, 40 kids on the varsity team. So it's really important, how you put that puzzle together. And, that's what we're trying to, do as we speak.
The last 2 years they haven't made it to the playoffs after making it 14 years in a row, but they had a very successful sophomore team last year. I think they went like 7-2. So does that mean Dakota might be a little bit younger looking team this year?
Well, possibly. I mean, we have 7 seniors, and I'm pretty sure every one of those kids can play, so that helps. We have 12 juniors and 10 sophomores. So, with that, I think, those 12 sophomores are going to bring a lot to the table, and, they're somewhat athletic. The one disadvantage that we're going to have is, we're going to be small physically. That's never bothered me. That just means that we're going to be quicker. Obviously the toughness of Dakota, in the past and hopefully present and future, will be there. And, everything that we're really trying to accomplish is getting better in space. And speaking of Justin Gum, we know that, he's going to run that wide open spread that he ran at Jefferson, and, we've got to be good in space. So, we've worked on that an awful lot this summer. So I think if that's one of the things that we're trying to improve on, it's trying to improve on our athletic ability and speed and things of that sort.
I understand you have a wrestling background, and Dakota has a great history of wrestling at Dakota with the Albert family there and everything. Does that help you a little bit understand some of the kids you get that wrestle and also play football? Is that going to be an advantage for you out there?
It should be. It should be, because, a lot of football coaches say, "Oh, I love wrestling. I love wrestling." But they never, they just kind of talk it. They never push it. I mean, we're gonna push it. Actually, I saw Pete at his 50th birthday party on Saturday night. I probably shouldn't have said how old he is, but
he's 50. Did you say Pete Albert's 50?
Pete Albert, yeah.
He's a good man. I like him.
He's just a wild man. We had a lot of fun, and I've known Pete. I'm trying to think back, even when he was with Dick Schutte. I'm trying to think if I was at Jefferson then, or I think at Auburn, or maybe both. And then when I went to Boylan and I coached wrestling there, we've always wrestled Dakota. Sometimes we've done well, sometimes we haven't. But we had, I had an opportunity to talk with some wrestling parents whose kids play football, and we actually talked about that situation. We actually have another kid that, came to our last day of camp, and he wasn't sure about playing football, and, because of wrestling, and we just said, come on in, we'll talk about it, we'll work with it, any way that we can, and, you try and make it a positive, and, I think any football coach that, doesn't embrace the wrestling program, especially the wrestling program that Dakota's got to be a little off,
Yeah.
So I know the weight cutting and all that other stuff, they did a few things, early in the summer, but, the kids are done with that, and they're back, playing football, and, that's where the toughness has come from. And, I think it helps. It helps that I have that background.
Okay, we talked about your offense. You've basically are going to be doing the same thing Coach Lano did, and do you have some kids that are comfortable already in that position? Some kids you're going to be counting on to get that offense going?
We kind of tweaked that a little bit when we were at Jefferson, and we kind of went to a little bit of a tighter formation, and we have our spread stuff in if we need to. Or I should say our spread formation.
There you go.
I don't want to say, we're going to come out in the spread offense, because I don't know if I'd even make it to the first game. But, we have some open up formations, and we can use those when we need them. But, it really depends on what we see defensively and, what they're doing. And, we look just like every other coach. You look for the soft spots, and you look for, people out of position, and, what they're doing at certain places where we want to go. And then, you have plan B, ready. And hopefully you don't have to go to plan C.
Defensively, will we think we're watching Jefferson play this year?
Probably. I know, we run a defensive set called the Bear, and it pretty much looks like the 4-4 that, Dakota's run forever. But we will be in, some form of odd defense. I mean, actually I had a great opportunity to talk with, actually we met Mike Lawler for lunch about a month ago. The defense that they ran is what we ran at Jefferson before most of these kids were born, and maybe before their parents were born. And, I think they've won 5 state championships
Yeah.
with it at Stillman Valley. So, and we won some conference championships at Jefferson with it. And, we did pretty well at Lutheran with it last year, made it to the semis. So, it just kind of stands the test of time. And, I'm familiar with it, and I'm comfortable with it, and I can coach it. So, there's always going to be some hiccups and some growing pains, but I think that's the way, that will go. The nice thing about it is it gives us several different looks up front, and, when we change things, we'll change it with our secondary. Whether they, switch to a, trips formation, or whether they move their tight end from, one side to the other. Whatever it might be, we will just kind of even it up with our defense. And I kind of got this when I was at Boylan. They did the same thing, and one of the things that, they always talked about is, you keep your front 7 or so in the same position, reading the same keys, and it's just amazing, how well things go. And, of course, Bill ended up going to 5 semis. Bill Thumb from Boylan to 5 semis. So, you take things, a little from here, a little from there, things that have worked from other people, and if you can, lock it in, why would you not do that?
Yeah, I like that formula. When you go to a smaller school, like Dakota, and when we talked to Justin Gum from South Beloit, will you have a lot of kids going both ways? I know that's one problem that a 1A school faces more than maybe a 6A or a 7A.
That's a great question, and I think one of the things that we're trying to do right at this point is, we talk about how important defense is. So when we rest our kids, we're going to rest them on offense. Mm-hmm. And we're going to put our best kids on defense, and we're going to limit people, with having time with the ball and so on and so forth. And it's probably one of our big fights last year at Lutheran, because Bruce was such a spread offensive guy. We'll just outscore him. Well, don't tell your defensive guy that you're just going to go into a game and think about outscoring the other team. You'd like to think that somewhere along the line you're going to count on defense somewhere. And, actually as the season wore on, we kind of, we really did kind of send that message. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that if a kid's playing one spot and he's really important to us, that we have a really good backup there, if he needs to get off the field. That's what I meant by, kind of putting the puzzle together. And, with that, you're kind of limited to some of the things that you can do. I mean, I'd love to do a few more things, but until we do the things that we're doing pretty well, you can't move on. And you want to make sure that the kids, when you're a kid, something happens and he goes down, you got to make sure the kid that you're putting in for him, can do what he needs to do, and knows what he needs to do and where to line up and so on and so forth. So that becomes really important.
Special teams, and at a small school, I'm sure one of your offensive or defensive players are going to be part of those special teams. How's the kicking and the punting game and the return game looking?
Well, it's kind of funny you say that once again, because Thursday, which was our last day of camp, we got on the game field, and we ran our offense against defense, and when we scored, we went to extra point, and it was relatively, one of the first times that we've kind of worked on it, and I think the kids were a little bit shocked, like, we're going to kick an extra point. Yeah, we're going to kick an extra point. So some were good, some weren't, and but it was probably a lot better than what I initially thought. Our punt game will be okay. As far as returns, after all the film that I viewed, there's a couple good punters. Now, I don't know if they're back or not from other teams,
mm-hmm.
but as far as kickoffs, I only saw one team that really kicked the ball off. Everybody else is line driving it and doing lots of onside kicks. So we're probably going to end up having a hands team for the most part on all of our kickoff returns. To start off with, I was kind of surprised, I guess would be the word. But I understand too everybody's thought process. How much can you do with the number of kids that you have?
Yeah.
So, but that too, becoming more athletic, special teams is going to be more of a priority now as we get started with two-a-days. So, too many good things can happen on special teams. You don't want that momentum change because you weren't ready for something. So that's important.
Well, thanks so much, Coach, for taking time out. Good luck at Dakota. I know you open up with South Beloit. That'll be a fun game as you and Justin Gum have some, each other pretty well and have become friends, so that'll be interesting. But we thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you, Dave.
We've been talking to Rick Schmitz, the new head football coach at Dakota. For the StatelineSportsHub.com, I'm Dave Schmidt.